We're going to complete Chapter 9 either today or early Wednesday. And then we're going to go back, and we skipped over Chapter 7 and 8. But you also should know there is an assignment due Wednesday at midnight, so 2 days from now at midnight. It's on Blackboard, and it's basically using the 5 reporting tools we use a little bit with Excel. Sorting, formatting, calculating, grouping, all those kinds of things. So that's available on Blackboard right now. So if you haven't had a chance to finish that yet, you're going to do some things with Excel, upload the Excel workbook, and I'm going to grade it, so apply what we're doing. So just to kind of review as we start this new week, we are talking about business intelligence systems, and this is an area of growth within management information systems. The more data we generate, the better our tools get for analyzing that data, the more information we can have as a manager to make decisions about our business. So the first thing we started talking about, we'll kind of fill this in today, is where our data comes from. Like this data that we're analyzing to gather information comes from. And one of the things, the best source, because it's free, is operational data. Just data that is generated by using our operations, by swiping in at Torvian, by registering for a class, by buying something, by bidding on something on eBay. Operational data is data that is gathered the operations of the business. We can also talk about social data. Social data is how people, how things are connected. Purchase data is sometimes we have blanks, and there's companies that actually gather data. They're like data repositories, and then they sell that, right? They say, I would like to know a little bit more about my customers than I'm able to gather. Like, I don't know if they subscribe to magazines. Perhaps I'd like that information because I want to do better targeted marketing. And then employee knowledge. So we take that source of data and we use business intelligence applications to analyze that so that we have information we can give to knowledge workers. And we talked a little bit about the types of data that we have. We acquire data, we perform analysis, and we publish results. A couple things that we talked about last class and that we worked on is there are really 5 basic operations that we can use to analyze data. And we did all these with Excel. Sorting, filtering, grouping, calculating, and formatting. And we did a couple examples with Excel. The one we spent a lot of time on Friday was something called an RFM analysis, which just used those 5 basic tools. What is RFM analysis? What was that all about? What was RFM analysis? What was RFM analysis? Come on your quiz Friday. Yes. Okay, so operational data, we have, one of the things we're going to track as an organization, any organization tracks, who ordered from us, when, and how much did they order, right? That's just operational data, our sales data. So that data itself, okay, we need to track that for reporting purposes, for accounting purposes, but it also has a story that we can get out of that. So we do RFM analysis. We rank our customers by how recently they purchased from us, how frequently they purchased from us, and how much money they spent. What does that help inform? Okay, so, we can do that, but how do we use that information? What does that help inform? What do we use RFM analysis for? Why would that be important to us? What do you think? Alexis? Guess one for me? Come on, why would I care to rank my customers by that? Just you're number 1, you're number 2. Why would I use that? Dan? Okay, so how would I use that though as a business? Right, that's what I find out. But information, we want to apply it. How can we apply that information? Okay, well maybe, yeah, maybe they get their own, I don't know, representative concierge, right? Because, hey, take care of this customer because they are very, very important to us, right? They bring a lot of revenue. We probably know those kind of things, just as a matter of fact, but that kind of backs that up. But what else can it do? Okay, so you're right. Who are our most important customers? What else? Mark, do you have something else for me? What else can we also find out from that information? What else?
Like if you're losing a client or not, like if they haven't ordered in a while.
yeah, the recency data tells us, this used to be a great customer for us, but they haven't ordered from us in a long time. Maybe that's an opportunity to go out and make another contact with them. Maybe we can send them, maybe they left us, maybe they went to a competitor, right? That's going to be important to me. Maybe someone says, well, this company's not spending as much money as maybe they could. Maybe there's upsell opportunity or cross-sell opportunity. So just by doing that analysis can help us, figure out how we work with our relationships, our customer relationships. Mark? Sure. Yeah, have you ever left someone, a business, that they will send you some kind of, like you said, a coupon? They'll say, hey, we want you back. You ever see that? And they give you like a better deal because you were a good customer, right? Even when I worked for the bank, this was years ago, but we used to look at the profitability of our customers, and you would think, like, you are better customers. As far as, when I say better customers, I mean who made us money, were sometimes customers that weren't like good banking people. Like people that overdrew a lot, and then paid their fees. They were a good customer to us. Why? Because fees are all profit. Like if you overdraft 7 checks, that's $210. Well, it was, I don't know what it would be now. But that was a good customer to us, right? People that even missed loan payments, that was good because we charged them a fee. Those were good customers. So sometimes you think of good customers as like, the people that pay back all the time, but that's not necessarily right as far as business-wise, right? So you want to do some analysis to say, I want to know my customers and how they impact my business, and RFM analysis does that, okay? That was one of the things we used. It was nice, right? The other thing that we discovered, and we really didn't use this for a particular purpose, but we talk about something called OLAP. What did OLAP stand for? What were some of the terms with OLAP? What was OLAP stand for? OLAP stands for Online Analytical Processing. And what do we use? There's all kind of tools to do that. But what tool do we use in Excel to do an OLAP? We call it an OLAP cube. What do we call that tool? Yeah, we call it a pivot table, right? And we said we can take all this data and we can break it down into components that are interesting to us. And we said, we can group things by, remember grouping was we could group things by dimensions. Like major is a dimension that I could group you guys on. Class is a dimension I could group you on. What state you're from, if you're a student athlete or not. Those are all dimensions, things that are groupable, if you will, right? A lot of things are groupable. And then we want to measure something, right? The thing we're interested in studying, like maybe your GPA, maybe your scholarship amount, maybe, I don't know, whatever. How many parking fines you have. Those are measures, right? Those are things we can measure. And what's nice about an online analytical processing is it's online, so we can change this, right? We can filter things, we can add another dimensions. And the other thing is, when we get down to another layer, we want to get down to, like this is something that's interesting to me. Like I want to know what our MIS majors that are juniors are doing. What do I do to get down another layer? What do we call that? Well, filtering, you're right, but we like double clicked on the OLAP cube and it opened up another spreadsheet and just showed us those 6 customers. Yeah, we call it a drill down, right? So you have this layer, and you get down into the finer layers, right? And say, this is what I'm really interested in studying. So those are kind of the things we left off on, and this is really, really grown in business organizations, okay? And I'm going to move on today, and we're going to talk about other techniques that are used. And you guys have all seen these techniques, but maybe don't know the terms for them or how we label things. And we're going to talk about something called data mining. Okay, data mining. So you guys know what mining is, traditional mining, like coal mining and gold mining and all those kind of things. Well, the data also has nuggets of gold or nuggets of information in it that I want to get at. Okay? So what data mining is, and this is probably a better, more comprehensive diagram than mine, but all data mining is taking the data that I have, applying math and statistical techniques, and coming out with information in the form of patterns or relationships that I can use in the business world. Okay? So statistics and mathematics, artificial intelligence, machine learning. One of the things that's driving this is cheap computer processing and storage power. Right? I can do these kind of things a lot quicker than I used to be able to sophisticated marketing, finance, and other business professionals. So I guarantee you, I think I talk in this class, in my stats class a lot. I don't care what major you are in business, marketing, accounting, finance, you're going to need to understand information. You're going to be able to have to analyze data. Accounting major that just graduated last year, Canadian accounting major, I shouldn't say the name, but he just texted me yesterday, said, hey, Dr. Miko, do you know anything about R programming? R programming is a programming language that's used for like big data analysis. He said, I use Excel all the time, now they want me to go to the next step. So he was an accounting major. He wasn't an MIS major, wasn't a computer science major, but they want him to understand these kinds of things. So data mining is just, taking this data and looking for information in it, right? We have all this data. We've gathered all this data. Can we find some kind of pattern relationship that we can use for our organization? So there's two branches of data mining. Okay, two branches of data mining. And the first one is called unsupervised data mining. Unsupervised data mining is, you don't go into it with any preconceived notion. You just go say, I want to analyze all this data, and I want to see if I can find any kind of relationships, any kind of patterns, okay? We don't build a model before we do the analysis. We just say, let's go look at this data and see if we discover any kind of pattern relationship. If we look at our customers, okay, this is a common type of unsupervised data analysis, something called cluster analysis. So we look at our customers and we see if they cluster around anything. Can we see that, like, most of our customers are either very wealthy 60-year-olds or maybe very affluent 20-year-olds, right? Those are the two clusters that buy our product. Or maybe there's only like one cluster that buys my product, and it's tweens, right? It's in that 12, 11-year-old, 12-year-old group, right? So we try to look and we say, is there a cluster, that buys my product? And this used to be a very good tool for this, but I just tried to run it this morning, and it doesn't work anymore because they changed the API. But there is, you guys ever hear of Wolfram Alpha? You guys ever hear of, what is Wolfram Alpha, Margaret? Yeah, Wolfram Alpha is she said it's a math site where you can put in, it is, it's a mathematical search engine, they call it. So you can put in an equation and it'll factor it for you, or it'll do a derivative for you. So it's, it's kind of nice when I do my son's homework with him. I have to use that. So they have a tool that used to be better, but it's called a personal analytics for Facebook, okay? So, and it's free. And what it basically does is it takes your Facebook, anything that Facebook has ever stored about you, and it analyzes it. And it is an example of unsupervised data mining. It doesn't say, like, I think that John Miko is friends with a lot of 50-year-olds. It doesn't say, I think John Miko posts a lot of pictures and when. It says, let's go out and see what John Miko does, right? So if I run this report, and hopefully I can get it to at least work today, and you can do this. Let's try it again. Because it is pretty cool. I think you'd like it. I did get it to work this morning. All right, good. So it's going up. Okay. All right, so this is, the data that I have uploaded to Facebook. There's Facebook report, generate, blah, blah, boom. It has my birthday on there. It has some analysis, my recent history, like things I've done, uploaded photos, uploaded videos, posted links, as a pie chart. This is, when I did that kind of activity. So, given the day of the week and what time, where am I most Facebook active as a Facebook user. Total likes, total comments. My average post length, I guess I'm not very wordy, 6.04. Average characters, only 43.96. Here are the most, word cloud is kind of an example of unsupervised data mining. Like, what words do I use most in my posts? It looks like I use congratulations, looks my son, November, oldest dad. So I don't know why oldest dad.
Shows me my most liked post, my top commenters like on my things. That's my mother-in-law. That's a friend. That's my mother. These are other people that post on everything. What's nice that it doesn't have anymore was it used to show a cluster of your friends. Okay, so it kind of, maybe I can find an example of it to show you. Let's see, Wolfram Alpha Facebook report. And let's go to images. Yes. Okay, so it would look like this. Okay, so it would show all your friends. That's not the greatest picture, I guess. Maybe this is good. Okay, yeah. So view image. So it would show all your friends, and it would cluster them, basically. Like, it doesn't work for mine anymore. It probably won't work for yours. But I have friends, and they're from different clusters. Like, where do you think my friends are clustered around? And your friends would be clustered the same. Differently, but by different categories. Where do you think I gathered friends in my life? I never make you friendless. But I do. I have friends, right? So where do my friends come from, do you think? Okay, so one cluster is definitely St. Francis College, right? So there would be, right here, there'd be a cluster of friends that, they're all kind of linked together, right? And they're linked to me. And they seem to be linked around this thing called St. Francis University, like friends and former students, right? So for sure, that would be a cluster. Where else would a cluster be for me or for you? What else? Almost everyone. Yeah, people you grew up with, right? High school friends, childhood friends. That would be another cluster, right? I used to work for M&T Bank for 10 years before that. That's another cluster for me, right? And then usually you have like a family cluster. So, your friends come from this, so you can kind of get a picture, and that's what cluster analysis is all about. But if we do it for customers, we're saying our customers are grouped like, there's one group that maybe is, an older couple, maybe that's who's buying our product, or maybe it's, yuppie, whatever it might be, but there might be clusters. These are the people that are buying our products. We're not just analyzing, John Miko's friends, we don't have any real use for that, but who might be buying our products, right? That's what it's unsupervised. It doesn't go into it with any kind of preconceived notion. It just says, hey, how are these things grouped together? That's what cluster analysis is all about, right? That's what unsupervised data mining is all about. So how could that benefit? So unsupervised data mining, how can that benefit? What can I use that information for? What can I use that information for? If I do cluster analysis on my customers, whatever my product is, how can I use that information? Because that's what's important in all this. The stats is cool, the graphs is cool, all that stuff is cool, but what really is cool, right? What really is cool is how we use it. Alexis? Okay, so yeah, that could be something that's important to us, right? We can get that from cluster analysis. We can go in, you even saw my post, when am I using Facebook, right? We could do the same thing, with our sales. Like, can we cluster our sales around weekends always? Is there seasonality to it? So sure, that's something we could. Is there patterns of when people buy our stuff, right? And maybe we can say, is it after we do like a big promotion campaign? And so is our promotion working? That would help answer that question. Did our Super Bowl ads work? Did we have a big jump in sales, right? But the other thing we can do, if we just look at the cluster of demographics of our customers, it can help us market. Like, we know our customer, right? We know that, we think we know who's going to buy our product, but until the rubber hits the road and people actually start buying it, then we know this is the people that actually bought our product, right? And maybe we can figure out what need it fulfilled for this group or that group, and we can target our marketing toward that group. Or maybe there's an underrepresented group. Why are we missing this group? This group should want our product, but they're not buying our product. Why? Okay, so cluster analysis can be used for that. That's called unsupervised data mining. Another topic is we start out with a model. Okay, we can start out with a preconceived model, and
Well, then we see if there's evidence to support. Okay. One of the things that we talked about in stats is something called regression analysis. What is regression analysis? Well, I know some of you haven't had it for stats, but you probably had regression analysis sometime in your college career. But what is regression analysis? What is regression analysis? What do you think? Regression analysis is we start out with, we say, we think there's a relationship between these two things, right? Maybe we think there's a relationship between how much someone earns and how much they spend on a product category. Maybe it's a high-end product category. I don't know, like what's a high-end household item? I don't know. Stainless steel appliances or something like that, right? I don't know, that's high-end, but something to that effect, okay? So maybe we think there's some kind of relationship there. Well, we can do what's called a regression analysis. We can say, okay, here's what people earn, here's how much they spend on appliances. Is there a relationship? And we can develop a model for that. So that is called supervised data mining, because we give a model and we see if there's data to support that. So this is cell phone weekend minutes is equal to, this is a regression analysis, 12 plus 17.5 times the customer's age, plus 23.7 times the number of months the account has been used. So we can use this now to predict how many cell phone minutes that a customer is going to use in the weekend. That is called supervised data mining. Now this is another type, and this is a data mining technique called market basket analysis. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. What do you think market basket analysis is? We see it all the time. Where do you see market basket analysis? Market basket analysis. You see it on Amazon all the time. Give me an example. You said Amazon. Okay, Sarah, how do you see it on Amazon?
When you buy something, or even if you just look at something, they start filtering the other stuff that you see, like recommended, like people also bought this, or people are also looking at this.
Very good. So if we go to like Amazon.com, okay, and give me a product to search for. What would you guys like to search for? Let's say earbuds, I don't know. Okay, earbuds. So let's go into these, cheapies, okay. It says, okay, this is what people bought. Customers who bought this item also bought boom, 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 boom. So how did they come up with this? How did they come up with this? They looked historically back at all their sales, and they said, in an order, people that bought this item also had this item in the order, some kind of case to hold it, right? Which makes sense. And what they have done now is they said, we're going to market, now that you're buying that, it's kind of like the person at the craft fair just saying, hey, I see you bought a paintbrush, or you're interested in a painter's hat at this point, right? That's what market basket analysis is. In a physical store, what they do is they say, hey, these are items that are commonly bought together, so what do they do at a physical store? They try to put those items physically together. They try to train their employees to suggest that. At an online store, they do it this way, right? They say customers who bought this also bought that. Further, what do you think this is about? Sponsored products related to this item. What do you think that's about? Very good, sponsored. So this company, whoever this is, Seattle Tech Wholesale, said, hey, when someone is looking at these earbuds, we would like you to put our product there as sponsored products related to this item. And she's right. They paid to put this out here, yes? They paid because they said, hey, we know at this point someone's actively searching for this. Where else is this used? So not just in buying things, but where else can this be used? Think about entertainment sources that you might use. Where else is this used? Where else do you see this? Where things are being recommended to you, not based on what you've told it, but what it has learned about you and learned about customers like you. Yes, Tom.
Like StubHub type thing?
I don't know. I've never used StubHub, but tell me. Explain.
Well, I remember I bought Pirate tickets last summer off StubHub, and they'll email me every time, I think I watched them play the Giants, but every time the Giants come or something, they always email me.
So you think you're a Giants fan, right?
Yeah, but
Are you?
I watch the Pirates.
Yeah, you're just a Buffalo fan, right? Good. But yeah, they think they say, hey, he came. So we think anytime the Giants are in town, we're going to make sure he knows about it, right? Yeah. Very good. Someone else said, what else? What other entertainment venue? That's true. What else? Netflix. Where do you see that in Netflix?
Like when you're done watching a show, they say, all right, other people like this show too. Watch this one.
Yeah, and it also says because you watched Beat, right? Because you watched Mad Men, we think you're going to like these kind of things. How do they know? Well, they know because people that have liked 5-star Mad Men also 5-star House of Cards, right? Well, everyone does, but you know, I mean, so they look for those kinds of patterns. Yes, Pandora, those kind of things. That's what they're looking like. Market basket analysis. So that is a form of unsupervised data mining. We're just saying, can we go and look at this data and find patterns, like of things that are bought together, things that are watched together, right? And then use that to create recommendations. So here's an example, and we want to understand some of the terms associated with market basket analysis. So products customers tend to buy together. We can look at probability of customer purchases. And we can identify specifically what we call cross-selling opportunities and sometimes upselling opportunities. Like can we get them to the next level? Can they buy the luxury brand, right? So this is an example, and I know it's not the greatest example, but there are a lot of programs out there that are customized to do this. So we run a dive shop, right? A scuba diving shop, and we have 400 transactions here that have occurred at our dive shop. And if we look at it, we are looking at just 5 products: mask, tank, fins, weights, and dive computers. Okay, so let's take a look at this step by step. So the first one says, this look at sales total. So where they intersect, like mask and mask, tank and tank, that tells us of the 400 transactions, 270 included a mask. Okay? Of the 400 transactions, 200 included a tank. Of the 400 transactions, 280 included fins, 130 included weights, and 120 included dive computers. Now, if we add those numbers up, they don't add to 400, so why not? Yeah, they weren't all purchased separately, right? One transaction can be for multiple items. That's what's in your market basket, your checkout basket, right? So if we look at that, they say, okay, of the 270 masks, it looks like at least 10 times a mask and a tank were bought together, right? And 250 times a mask was bought with fins, right? So it could be even more, like maybe it was mask, tank, and fins and bought in one transaction, right? So even these don't add up to 270. Why don't they add up to 270? Because you can buy 4 or 5 products at once, yes? So does that make sense in one transaction? So we can look at a couple things. So the first term that we want to look at is support. Okay, support is the overall number of transactions that occurred with that combination. So, for example, there's 400 transactions, 270 bought a mask. So 270 out of 400 gives us 0.675. Okay, so that may be a little bit useful to me, but what's even more useful is if we look at fins, okay? Of the 400 transactions, 250 were with mask and fins. Okay, 250 were with mask and fins, so that's 62.5%. So that tells us, hey, those things are commonly built together, and they're good sellers, right? Of the 400 transactions, 62% of them included mask and fins. So it tells us a couple things. They're high sellers, and they're also bought together quite frequently. If we look at, a smaller percentage, dive computer and weights, those things typically aren't bought together that often, okay? Only 2% of the transactions included those things together. Only 10 of the 400 transactions included those 2 things together. That's support, like overall percentage of how things are bought together. So that gives us some information, but let's take it a step further. can now look at it as a conditional probability. So, for example, of the 270 mass transactions, how many included fins? Of the 270 mass transactions, how many included fins? If someone bought a mask, how many of them included fins as well? You read that from if I bought a mask, how many included fins as well? 250. So if we take that 250 of 270 transactions, so just of the ones that bought a mask, how many of them also bought fins? 250 divided by 270 is 92%. So what that tells us, okay, that is what we call that term confidence, okay? The likelihood that they will buy product B given that they bought product A. If you think about conditional probability from stats. So the likelihood that they're going to buy fins given that they also bought a mask is 92%, okay, 92%. So when you look at Amazon, it says customers who bought this also bought that. Think about it. They're putting up high percentages there, right? Like, it's probably not 92%. That's kind of crazy. But they're looking at that percentage. Of the people that bought this is the percentage, the highest percentage of people also bought this together. Batteries or whatever the hell it is. Does that make sense? So we might, as a shop owner, think about this 50 years ago. As a shop owner, we might just recognize this pattern. We might say, well, because some of it is logical. People that bought paintbrushes also bought, I don't know, turpentine, right? Those are things that we would recognize. But now, with all the data analysis techniques, we can discover new patterns, right? Things that we didn't even think about, right? That people were looking for together. So confidence is the percentage of times, in that subset. If given this, that this is bought. But we can take that a step further, okay? And the fourth term is something called lift, okay? So what percentage of transactions include fins overall? What percentage, if you can read this, what percentage of transactions include fins overall? What's the likelihood of the 400 transactions that came into my store, what's the likelihood that someone buys fins, period? How many transactions include fins? Okay, very good. Of the 400 transactions, 280 bought fins, right? 280 out of 400, JJ's right, it's 70%. However, if we know they bought a mask, what happens to that probability? We just saw that. If we know they also bought a mask, what happens to that probability? It goes up to what? 92%, right? So if they buy a mask, does the probability that they buy fins go up or go down? It goes up, okay? So lift, kind of crazy, is the conditional probability. For example, in this case, 92 divided by 70. So the combination, given that they bought a mask, probability by fins goes from 92%. The base probability is 70. 92 divided by 70 gives us 1.32. So if we analyze these lift numbers, give me the ones that have positive lifts, meaning that if this is bought, it increases the likelihood of this being bought. Give me another one that has positive lift. Give me something else. So a lot of times, all this analysis, when we talk about support, we talk about confidence, we're really kind of zeroing in on this lift, right? That's kind of the ratio we're looking for. The probability that when this is bought, what's the ratio of its increase or decrease? So give me something else that's positively effective here. What's something that's positively effective? Come on, give me a positive lift and then a negative lift. Come on.
Would it be like weights and tag?
Where weights? Okay.
Like
What?
the index is more than negative percent.
Well, actually, no. What is that? 2, right? So that is pretty high, right? Because any lift over 1 is a positive ratio, right? Any lift under 1 is a negative ratio. Remember, because we're saying the conditional probability divided by the base probability. So when you said weights and tank, I looked at it first, I'm like, no, that's no good. But actually, that's the strongest combination, isn't it? Because it's a 2, right? That's the strongest combination. So tank and weights are the strongest cross-sell opportunity, right? If one's bought, the probability the other one goes up twice as much. Does that make sense? The ratio, it goes up from whatever it was to twice as high, okay? Well, it looks like it goes from 32% to 65%. So that's the strongest two things, right? Tanks and weights. I don't know anything about diving, but apparently they come in handy. What's something that has, if they buy this, it's less likely that they purchase this other thing. What else could we find? Give me something that's not a very strong relationship. With what? Okay, mask and dive computer. Well, mask and dive computer would be mask, dive computer is 1.11, so that's a positive relationship, okay, because it's probability they buy a dive computer overall is 30%, but if they buy a mask with it, it goes up to 33.3%. So that's where that 1.111 comes from. Give me something though that's negatively influenced. God, someone said something. Okay, mask and tank. So mask and tank, look how small that lift is, 0.07. Okay, so the odds that someone buys a tank, so let's look where tank come together. The odds that someone buys a tank, 50% of the transactions we had involved a tank, yes? But if a mask was bought along with it, that goes down to 3%, right? That goes down to 3%. So that's a negative relationship. If someone bought a tank, it's unlikely, less likely they're going to buy a mask, right? 50% overall, so must mean if they're buying a mask, they probably already have a tank, I guess, right? They're not getting set up. So as the shop owner, as the person, you might know this. You might know like where they're at in their scuba diving life cycle, but this can tell us that information online. So if someone buys a mask, and I'm Amazon, right? What am I going to show as, hey, you might want to consider buying this and this. So if someone buys a mask, what would I show if I were Amazon down here? What would I say? I would say fins and dive computer, because those both have what we call positive lift, right? Positive lift, yes. I know this is kind of an odd example, but I kind of did something similar to this with students, right? So looking at, you guys don't really buy products from us per se. I mean, you take courses from us, but what you kind of buy at the end is your major or minor, right? So I could look at that analysis, and what do you think that showed with the 6 business majors? If you were a finance major, what do you think was the most common secondary major? For sure, accounting. Okay, you guys might have just known that, right? Because you look around and say, oh, there's a lot of. How about management? What did it go along with? What was its? People that like management also like marketing work well together, right? What is a trend that has occurred with accounting recently, probably in the last, just the last couple years, is a trend that probably there was 0 correlation. Now there's a stronger. What other major have you guys know? Am I? Very good. So yeah, you're very good at this, looking at trends. But the numbers can, you're intuitive, right? You may just know the market. But if I didn't know anything about the St. Francis market, I do because I work with you guys every day, I could look at those numbers and say, this is what is occurring, right? This is how they're grouping things together, right? This is how they're grouping things together. Now, I know this isn't earth-shattering, but what I did then this year, in the summer I did it, as the chair, this isn't earth-shattering, but I said, well, since we have so many accounting finance, let's make a paradigm. Instead of having accounting, you guys know what I mean by paradigm? Accounting and finance. I made one that combined it, so you only had one advising document, right? Makes things simple. Marketing and management, same damn thing. Accounting and MIS, same damn thing, right? So we see these kind of combinations. So you can use this, what I'm trying to get across to you is you can use this in a lot of walks of life, not just selling physical items, right? That's what market basket analysis does for us. So it's very powerful. So let's just to review, we have support. That's the overall percentage combinations of things that are bought together, like of the transactions, what percentage include these two items or this item. Confidence, okay, confidence is a conditional probability. It's saying, given that this item is bought, okay, what's the probability of this item being bought, right? So that's the confidence. So if we know a mask was bought, the probability of fins was bought is 92%. And then we compare confidence to its base probability, and that gives us something called a lift. And that number one is kind of the baseline. Items higher than 1 means it's like a positive lift. Items lower than 1, that ratio, means it's kind of a negative lift. Okay, so very, very useful stuff. Okay, very, very useful stuff. Okay, this next one is something called a decision tree. Okay, a decision tree is also, that was just an unsupervised data mining technique. This is also an unsupervised data mining technique. So what we do in a decision tree is we kind of look at data that we have stored, and we try to categorize it, and then work backwards and put together some kind of recommendation. For example, if I'm a bank, okay, if I'm a bank making loans, what is the biggest thing I'm concerned with when I make a loan? Yes. Okay, but you're right, and that's something that's factored in, Dan, but what's the ultimate thing I'm concerned with? Defaulting or not defaulting, right? So what I can do, if I'm a bank and I've been in this business for years and years and years and years, Dan, right? What can I do? I can go back and look at every loan I've ever made, and I can say, these are the ones that pay me back, and these are the ones that didn't, right? So I can analyze that. I can analyze that data, and I can look for groups like, hey, these people didn't pay me back. And I can look for commonalities in that group. And what do you think the things I start to discover in that group are, Dan? And now we go into the details, like what? Okay, maybe they had crappy job history, right? Maybe they were with their employer for less than 12 months. What else? Maybe their credit rating was poor, right? Maybe they had, maybe there were attributes of their credit rating, like maybe they had past due payments, right? Maybe 50% of the time. So what we could do then, if we look back historically, right? What we can do then is project that forward and say, hey, if you're falling into this category, historically speaking, 80% of people like you haven't paid me back. So how do I make a decision as a branch manager or an underwriter? I say, you don't get a loan, right? You think about that. You don't get a loan. I know this is kind of another, silly Miko example, but, this is, let's see if I can find it here. This is, and I think I might have showed this to you guys a while ago. If I look at students, right? Think about, one example is, as a bank, I'm concerned, do they pay back or they don't pay back? What am I concerned with about students? As a university, what am I concerned with? How they do, right? How they do GPA-wise. Can they handle it, yes? So what do colleges and universities look at? What are the characteristics they look at to try and project how you're going to do in college? Go ahead. SAT score and GPA are two factors, right? There's other factors as well. But this is what we did. So this is what I did, actually. In 2011, this is a while ago. When did you guys come in as freshmen? If you're a senior, you came in and what? So this is even, these people are gone, right? So the first time incoming freshmen, I looked at how they did at the beginning and how they did at the end. So we could break them up, okay? So I grouped it this way. And that doesn't necessarily mean low, but I picked like the median score, like 9, 10 is in the low SAT group, and above 9, 10 is high SAT. And then high school GPA, I have 3.25 for high, 3.25 and down is low, right? So then I looked at the end of their freshman year, how they did, right? And these are the people that had, at the end of their freshman year, a 3.5 to 4.0. Okay, you know what I mean? This is what their college GPA at St. Francis was. Where do you notice most of those are? So we only had like 40-some freshmen that day. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of 9 were from what group? The high I group, right? Now, there's some that didn't do so well, even though they were, or some that did, some that did well, even though they had, low high school GPA. But they probably, they were all in the high GPA, high SAT side. Some of the low PT, so they probably matured, right? Now, if I look at, the ones that had at the end of their freshman year a 3.0 to 3.5, boy, they were all over the map, right? There were some, some over here in the high SAT, high GPA group, some in the low, some in the, high SAT, low, high GPA. They were all over the map, right? The kind of 3.0 to 3.5. If I looked at the next group down, 2.5 to 3.0, still looks like kind of more this way, but still not a real consistent trend. But if I look at the people that had 2.0 to 2.5 and then below, that's the red squares and the blue diamonds. Where are most all of those at? Almost all of those were where? What group? Go ahead. Low. Okay. So, as a school, I know I'm running out of time, but as a school, how can we take that and actualize it? How can we take that and actualize it? How can we apply that information? How do schools apply that information? As a decision tree. Go ahead. So we can make a decision tree that says if your GPA is greater than 3.25 and your SAT is higher than 910, admit, right? Accept. If it's lower than 3.25 and lower than 910, we probably still might admit you, but we might, say you have to do like, I don't know, what are those programs called, like OASIS or whatever it is, right? So that's how they use it. And especially if we think about like some of our health professionals like PA and PT, you don't get into PA unless you have an 1150 SAT and like a high school GPA 3.5, and you're saying, well, that's mean, right? How do they know? How do they know me? How hard am I going to work? They don't know me. Like I screwed around in high school, or I screwed off for the SAT. But what are they doing? They're looking back at past exams and saying, hey, sometimes you got to be cruel to be kind, right? Like, why set someone up for failure, right? Now, there are people there are outliers, right? There are people that look like they have a bad credit score, look like they have no job history, that do pay back loans, right? There are people that have great credit score, but their life goes to shit. They don't pay you back, right? So there are outliers, but in a lot of these cases, we go with what the statistics tell us, right? Because we do this decision over and over again. We have to make it right 90% of the time. So there is information in the data that helps us manage. All right, I know it's been too long. But anyways, I will see you Wednesday. You didn't get done for chapter 9. We will Wednesday. Wednesday night at midnight, you do have an assignment that is due. Have a great day.